largest shopping center in Millbrook. A man of impressive stature, Marcus carried himself with the quiet dignity of someone who had seen conflict and chosen peace. His architect's portfolio rested on the passenger seat, a reminder of why he'd relocated to this suburban town after 20 years designing buildings in Chicago. At 52, he was ready for something quieter, something meaningful. He'd accepted a position with the town's urban planning department, excited to help shape spaces that brought communities together, but as Marcus walked toward the coffee shop inside the mall, he couldn't ignore the lingering glances. Some were curious, others less welcoming. This wasn't Chicago, where diversity was woven into the fabric of daily life. Here, in this predominantly white suburb, his presence seemed to register as an anomaly. Inside the coffee shop, Marcus ordered an espresso and found a corner table. He opened his laptop, reviewing blueprints for a community library he'd been commissioned to redesign. The work absorbed him completely, until three voices shattered his concentration. "Well, look what we've got here," came a sharp, mocking tone. Marcus glanced up. Three men in their late 20s stood before him, their body language radiating entitlement. The leader, a lean man with slicked back hair and an expensive watch, smirked down at Marcus. His companions, one stocky with a shaved head, the other wiry with nervous energy, flanked him like loyal dogs. "This is kind of our spot," the leader continued, gesturing at the table. "We always sit here. You're new, so maybe you didn't know." Marcus set down his stylus, his expression neutral. "The shop's pretty empty. Plenty of other tables." The leader's smirk widened. "Yeah, but we like this one. Great view, you know?" He leaned closer. "Plus, we're not really used to your type hanging around here. Makes people uncomfortable." The stocky one chuckled. "Yeah, man. No offense, but you stick out like a sore thumb. Maybe you'd be happier somewhere else? Like, I don't know, back where you came from?" Marcus's jaw tightened, but his voice remained calm. "I'm from San Francisco originally. Before that, my family's been in California for 3 generations. Is that far enough back for you?" The wiry one snickered. "Ooh, he's got jokes. Look, buddy, we're just trying to help you out. This town, it's got a certain way of doing things. People who don't fit in? They don't usually last long." The leader, whose name Marcus would later learn was Tyler Brennan, crossed his arms. "What my friend's trying to say is, we look out for this community. We keep it clean. Safe. You get what I'm saying?" Marcus closed his laptop deliberately, his movements controlled. "I get exactly what you're saying. And I'm not interested." Tyler's expression darkened. "Not interested? You think you've got a choice here?" The coffee shop had gone quiet. Other patrons watched nervously, but no one intervened. The barista, a young woman with worried eyes, picked up her phone, then hesitated and set it down again. "I'm going to finish my coffee," Marcus said evenly, "and then I'm going to leave. You're welcome to sit wherever you'd like after that." Tyler's face flushed red. He leaned down, his hands on the table. "You've got some nerve, old man. Maybe we need to teach you some manners." The stocky one cracked his knuckles theatrically. "Yeah, maybe we do." But Marcus didn't flinch. Years in the Marines had taught him to recognize empty threats, and to know when a situation was about to escalate. These men wanted a reaction, wanted him to either cower or explode. He'd give them neither. "Walk away," Marcus said quietly, his voice carrying a steel edge that made Tyler pause. "You don't want to do this." For a moment, uncertainty flickered across Tyler's face. But then the wiry one laughed, breaking the tension in the wrong direction. "Listen to this guy. He thinks he's tough." Tyler's bravado snapped back into place. "You know what? I think you need a lesson in respect. See you around, neighbor." He drew out the last word mockingly. The 3 men backed away, their laughter echoing through the shop as they left. But their eyes promised this wasn't over. Marcus sat still for a long moment, his heart rate barely elevated despite the confrontation. He'd faced worse, far worse, in Fallujah. But this felt different. This wasn't combat. This was something more insidious, the slow poison of prejudice, the casual cruelty of men who believed their birthright included controlling who belonged. The barista approached cautiously. "I'm so sorry about that. They're always causing trouble. Has anyone reported them?" Marcus asked. She shook her head, her voice dropping to a whisper. "Tyler's dad owns half the commercial properties in town. His mom's on the school board. People are afraid." Marcus nodded slowly, processing this information. "What's his full name?" "Tyler Brennan. He runs with those 2, Brett and Connor. They've been doing this for years." She glanced around nervously. "Look, I probably shouldn't be telling you this, but you should be careful. They don't just make threats. I appreciate the warning, Marcus said. That evening, Marcus sat in his modest rental house, a renovated craftsman on Maple Street. He'd chosen it for the large windows and the proximity to the park where he jogged every morning. Now he wondered if he'd made a mistake coming here. His phone buzzed. A text from his daughter, Sophie, who was finishing her residency in Seattle. How's the new town, Dad? Making friends, Marcus smiled despite everything. Getting to know the locals. It's interesting. He set the phone down and opened his laptop. If Tyler Brennan and his crew thought they could intimidate him into leaving, they'd badly misjudged their target. Marcus had spent 2 decades in the Marines, including 3 tours in the Middle East. He'd commanded men under fire, made life and death decisions, and learned that the strongest weapon wasn't violence, it was information. He started researching. It didn't take long to find a pattern. The Millbrook Community Forum, a local online board, contained dozens of complaints dating back 5 years. Business owners reported harassment. Families described vandalism. Several minority residents had posted about threatening encounters, only to delete their accounts shortly after. Marcus found archived news articles too. A Korean family's restaurant had been vandalized 3 times in 2 months before they closed. An African-American pastor reported death threats after proposing a diversity initiative at the town council. A Hispanic contractor had his truck set on fire, then left town without pressing charges, and in every case, Tyler Brennan's name appeared in the comments section, sometimes supportive, sometimes mocking the victims, but always present. His friends Brett and Connor were there too, their posts barely concealing their involvement. Marcus leaned back, his architect's mind already constructing a framework. This wasn't random. This was systematic. Tyler and his crew had created an environment of fear, and they operated with impunity because their families had money and influence, but every structure had a weak point. Every system had a vulnerability. Marcus just had to find it. Over the next week, Marcus kept a low profile. He went to work, attended planning meetings, and slowly built relationships with his new colleagues. He was friendly but not pushy, professional but warm. People began to relax around him. At a community planning session, he met Linda Park, the director of the town's historical society. She was a Korean-American woman in her 60s with sharp eyes and a sharper wit. "You're the new architect everyone's talking about," she said during the coffee break. "I hope that's a good thing," Marcus replied. Linda studied him for a moment. "You've met the Brennan boy, haven't you?" Marcus's surprise must have shown, because Linda smiled grimly. "It's a small town, Mr. Chen. Word travels. Especially when Tyler makes a scene." "He seems to make a lot of scenes," Marcus said carefully. "He does. And his father cleans them up." Linda's expression hardened. "My family tried to open a restaurant here 6 years ago. Tyler and his friends made it impossible. Graffiti, broken windows, customers harassed in the parking lot. The police did nothing. We eventually gave up." "I'm sorry," Marcus said, and meant it. "Don't be sorry. Be careful." Linda paused, then added, "But if you're planning to do something about it, there are people who'd help." "Quietly, but we'd help." Marcus nodded slowly. "Good to know." That evening, Tyler made his next move. Marcus returned home to find his mailbox ripped from its post and lying in his yard. Spray painted across his garage door in crude red letters, "Go home." He stood there for a long moment, photographing everything with his phone. Then he called the police. Officer Hayes arrived 20 minutes later, a middle-aged man with tired eyes and a barely concealed sigh when he saw the damage. "You file a report?" Hayes asked, his tone suggesting he already knew this was pointless. "I'd like to, yes," Marcus said. Hayes walked around the property, taking photos, but his heart clearly wasn't in it. "You got any idea who might have done this?" "I have suspicions," Marcus replied. "There was an incident at the coffee shop last week. 3 men, Tyler Brennan, Brett Collins, and Connor Walsh, made some threats." Hayes's pen paused over his notepad. "Tyler Brennan?" "Yes." The officer's expression shifted, becoming more guarded. "Look, Mr. Chen, I'll file this report, but I gotta be honest with you. Unless you've got video evidence or witnesses, there's not much we can do. The Brennan family, they're well connected. You'd need pretty solid proof." Marcus kept his voice level. "So I should just accept this?" Hayes looked uncomfortable. "I'm just telling you how things are. Maybe it'd be easier if you tried to fit in a little better. Keep your head down. This town can be great if you give it a chance." After Hayes left, Marcus stood in his driveway, his phone in his hand. The officer's barely veiled suggestion burned, "Keep your head down. Don't make waves. Accept that you're less than .no." He'd spent his life standing up, not bowing down. If this town wanted him gone, They'd have to do better than spray paint and veiled threats. Marcus made a decision. He wasn't going to react with anger or violence. He was going to do what he did best, build a case, document everything, and dismantle their operation piece by methodical piece. The next confrontation came 3 days later at the town's Autumn Festival, a community event held in Central Park. Marcus attended, hoping to meet more residents and start building connections for his library project, was examining a local artist's booth when he felt the familiar prickle of hostility. Tyler, Brett, and Connor approached through the crowd, their swagger unmistakable. "Look who decided to show up," Tyler announced loudly, drawing attention from nearby families. "Thought you'd have gotten the message by now." Marcus turned slowly, his expression calm. "I got your message. Graffiti isn't really my aesthetic." Brett laughed, stepping closer. "Your aesthetic? What are you, some kind of art snob? This isn't the big city, old man. We don't need you here trying to change things." "I'm not trying to change anything," Marcus replied evenly. "I'm here to do my job." "Your job?" Connor sneered. "What, designing buildings for people who actually belong here?" "Newsflash, that's not you." Tyler moved closer, his voice dropping but still audible to the gathering onlookers. "You're not welcome here, Chen. Your kind never stays long anyway. They figure out pretty quick that Millbrook isn't for them." "My kind?" Marcus repeated, his tone sharp enough to cut. "And what kind would that be?" The crowd had grown, a circle of spectators watching the confrontation unfold. Some looked uncomfortable, others angry, though Marcus couldn't tell if their anger was directed at Tyler or at him. Tyler grinned, sensing an audience. "You know exactly what I mean. This is a nice, safe, clean community. We like it that way. People who don't fit the mold, they're better off somewhere else." A woman in the crowd, Linda Park, stepped forward. "That's enough, Tyler. This is a community event. Take your hate somewhere else." Tyler's expression soured. "Stay out of this, Linda. This doesn't concern you." "It concerns all of us," Linda shot back. "You've been terrorizing this town for years, and people are tired of it." But most of the crowd remained silent, their eyes downcast. Fear still ruled here. Tyler turned back to Marcus, emboldened by the lack of support. "See? Even your defender knows she's outnumbered. You're alone here, Chen. And when you're alone, accidents happen." Brett cracked his knuckles again. "Yeah. Lots of accidents in a new place. Wouldn't want you to get hurt." Marcus's military training kicked in. He assessed the situation, 3 opponents, public setting, multiple witnesses. They wouldn't attack here, not physically. This was psychological warfare, designed to isolate and intimidate. "I appreciate your concern," Marcus said, his voice dripping with controlled sarcasm. "But I'm pretty good at taking care of myself." Tyler's smile vanished. He stepped even closer, his breath hot with anger. "You think you're tough because you're big? Let me tell you something. Size doesn't matter when nobody's watching your back. And trust me, nobody here is watching your back." Marcus held his gaze, unflinching. "Then I guess I'll have to watch my own." For a long moment, they stood locked in silent confrontation. Then Tyler spat on the ground near Marcus's feet and turned away, his crew following. "See you around, neighbor," Tyler called over his shoulder, the threat implicit. The crowd dispersed quickly, most avoiding Marcus's eyes. But Linda approached, along with 2 others, a black man in his 40s who introduced himself as David Monroe, and a younger Latino man named Carlos Ruiz. "That took guts," David said quietly. "But you should know what you're up against. Tyler's family basically runs this town. His father, Richard Brennan, owns the mall, the office park on Route 7, and about a dozen rental properties. Tyler's uncle is the deputy mayor. And they protect him," Carlos added. "I run a landscaping business. Tyler's crew vandalized my equipment last year. Cost me $10,000 in damages. I filed a report, but nothing happened." Marcus absorbed this information, his strategic mind already working. How many others has he targeted? Linda, David, and Carlos exchanged glances. "Too many," Linda said finally. "But most won't talk. They're afraid. Or they've already left." "Would they talk if they knew others were speaking up?" Marcus asked. David raised an eyebrow. "What are you thinking?" "I'm thinking," Marcus said slowly, "that systems like this survive on silence. Break the silence, and the system falls apart." Carlos looked skeptical. "Man, people have tried. It never works. The Brennans have too much power." "Power isn't absolute," Marcus replied. "It's maintained through fear and complicity. If we can document everything, every incident, every threat, every act of vandalism, and present it all at once, publicly, the Brennans won't be able to bury it. Linda studied him with new respect. You've done this before. Different context, Marcus said. But yes. Information is power. We just need to gather it. Over the following weeks, Marcus became a different kind of architect. Instead of designing buildings, he was constructing a case, laying a foundation of evidence that would be impossible to ignore. He started by reaching out to former residents who'd fled Tyler's harassment. Using the contact information from old forum posts and news articles, he made calls, sent emails, and conducted video interviews. Many were hesitant at first, but Marcus's calm authority and genuine commitment gradually convinced them to share their stories. There was the Ahmadi family, Pakistani Muslims who'd left after their halal grocery store was vandalized and they received threatening letters. Marcus spent an hour on video call with Mrs. Ahmadi, who broke down crying as she described how her children had been bullied at school while Tyler's crew terrorized them at work. There was James Chen, no relation, a Chinese-American professor whose car had been keyed and whose tires had been slashed repeatedly until he accepted a position at another university. There was Maria Santos, whose family restaurant had been the target of bogus health complaints and constant harassment until they were forced to close. Each story added another brick to Marcus's structure. He documented everything meticulously: dates, times, police report numbers, when they existed, photos of damage, medical records from assault cases that had been dismissed, financial records showing economic losses. He also began investigating Richard Brennan's business empire. Using public records and his background in urban planning, Marcus discovered that several of Brennan's property developments had received questionable zoning variances. City contracts seemed to flow to Brennan-owned companies with suspicious regularity. Tax assessments on his properties were notably low compared to similar buildings. The more Marcus dug, the clearer the picture became. Tyler's reign of terror wasn't just enabled by his family's wealth. It was protected by a system of corruption that ran through the town's government. Meanwhile, Tyler escalated his campaign. Marcus's car was keyed in the town planning office parking lot. His trash cans were knocked over repeatedly. He received anonymous calls at 3 a.m., breathing and laughter on the line. Someone left a dead rat on his doorstep, but Marcus didn't react. He documented everything, filed reports with the Indifference police department, and continued building his case. Then, one evening, things turned violent. Marcus was leaving the gym at the community center where he'd started teaching a free self-defense class, which had attracted surprising interest from some of the town's more nervous residents. As he walked to his car, Tyler and his crew emerged from a pickup truck parked in the shadows. "Evening, Chen," Tyler said, his voice cold with menace. "Heard you've been asking a lot of questions. Talking to a lot of people." Marcus stopped, assessing the situation. It was late, the parking lot mostly empty. This was what Tyler had been building toward. "Just getting to know the community," Marcus replied calmly. Brett moved to Marcus's left, while Connor circled right. Classic encirclement tactics, though amateur ones. "See, that's the problem," Tyler continued. "You're not getting to know the community. You're stirring up trouble. Making accusations." "I haven't accused anyone of anything," Marcus said. "Yet." Tyler's expression darkened. "You think you're smart? You think you can come into our town and start making trouble without consequences?" "I think," Marcus said carefully, "that you've gotten away with terrorizing people for years because they were too scared to fight back. And I think you're not used to someone who isn't scared of you." Connor laughed nervously. "You should be scared, old man. There's 3 of us and 1 of you, and nobody around to help." Marcus's posture shifted subtly, his weight balancing, his hands relaxed but ready. 20 years of military combatives training, plus 10 years of Brazilian jiu-jitsu since retiring, made him more than prepared for this moment. "Last chance to walk away," Marcus said quietly. Tyler's response was to charge forward, Brett and Connor following his lead. Marcus's training took over. As Tyler swung wildly, Marcus sidestepped smoothly, using Tyler's momentum to redirect him into Brett. The two tangled and stumbled. Connor came from the side with a clumsy tackle, but Marcus shifted his hip, grabbed Connor's arm, and used a simple judo throw to send the younger man tumbling onto the asphalt. Tyler, recovered now, pulled out a collapsible baton, an escalation that made this assault serious. He swung at Marcus's head, but Marcus blocked with his forearm, stepped inside Tyler's reach, and delivered a controlled palm strike to Tyler's chest. The blow knocked the wind out of him, and the baton clattered away. Brett rushed again, and Marcus caught him in a standing arm lock, applying just enough pressure to make Brett cry out and drop to his knees. "Stop," Marcus said firmly, his voice carrying absolute authority. "This is over." Connor, still on the ground, made no move to get up. Tyler, gasping for breath, glared at Marcus with pure hatred. "You're done," Tyler wheezed. "You just assaulted us. My father will bury you." Marcus shook his head, reaching into his pocket. He held up his phone. This entire encounter was recorded. Audio and video, uploaded to cloud storage in real time. Self-defense, clearly documented. Tyler's face went pale. Now, Marcus continued, his voice still calm, you have two choices. You can leave now, and we'll call this a failed intimidation attempt. Or you can press charges, and I'll submit this video along with all the evidence I've been gathering about your activities over the past 6 years. Your call. For a long moment, Tyler said nothing. Then he spat blood onto the pavement and gestured to his crew. Let's go. As they limped toward their truck, Tyler turned back. This isn't over, Chen. Yes, Marcus said quietly, it is. You just don't know it yet. The next morning, Marcus walked into the offices of the Millbrook Chronicle, the town's weekly newspaper. The editor, a woman named Patricia Holmes, looked up from her desk with barely concealed surprise. Mr. Chen. What can I do for you? Marcus set a thick folder on her desk. I have a story for you. About systematic harassment, intimidation, and possibly corruption involving the Brennan family. Patricia's expression became guarded. Those are serious allegations. They are. Which is why I've spent the past month documenting everything. Marcus opened the folder, revealing organized sections, victim testimonies, police reports, photos of vandalism, financial records, witness statements. This isn't speculation. This is evidence. Patricia leafed through the documents, her skepticism gradually giving way to professional interest. This is extensive. It's thorough, Marcus corrected. Tyler Brennan and his crew have terrorized minority residents and businesses for years. His family's influence has prevented any real investigation. But that ends now. And you're bringing this to me because local journalism is supposed to hold power accountable, Marcus said. And because I believe you're good at your job. Patricia studied him for a long moment. You realize this will cause a firestorm. The Brennans will come after you, and me. Let them, Marcus replied. Everything here is documented and verifiable. They can't fight facts. Patricia took a deep breath, then nodded. Give me a week to verify everything and conduct my own interviews. If this checks out, it will. Then we'll run it. Front page. The article appeared 6 days later under the headline, A Pattern of Hate, the Brennan Legacy of Intimidation. Patricia had done her job well. The piece was comprehensive, balanced, and damning. It detailed victim after victim, incident after incident, always linking back to Tyler Brennan and his crew. It explored Richard Brennan's business dealings and the questionable official actions that seemed to protect his son. It included quotes from former residents, current business owners, and even a few brave locals who'd remained anonymous but confirmed the pattern. The response was immediate and explosive. By noon, the story had been picked up by regional news outlets. By evening, it was trending on social media. The Millbrook Town Forum exploded with comments, some supportive, others defensive, all passionate. Richard Brennan held a press conference that afternoon, his lawyer at his side, denouncing the article as a coordinated smear campaign by disgruntled outsiders. But his denials rang hollow in the face of such detailed evidence. Tyler, meanwhile, was arrested that evening. The video from the parking lot assault, combined with victim testimony that Marcus had helped Patricia gather, gave the district attorney enough probable cause. Red and Connor were picked up the following morning. Marcus sat in his living room, watching the news coverage, when his doorbell rang. He opened it to find Linda, David, Carlos, and half a dozen others on his porch. We wanted to say thank you, Linda said simply. David added, you did what a lot of us should have done years ago. Marcus shook his head. You all did it. I just helped organize the information. The courage came from everyone who spoke up. Carlos grinned. Man, you're too modest. But seriously, the town council announced an emergency meeting for tomorrow night. They're talking about launching an investigation into the police department's handling of harassment complaints. That's a start, Marcus said. More than a start, Linda replied. You broke the silence. You showed people they didn't have to be afraid. The trial took 3 months to come together. In that time, Millbrook transformed. Town hall meetings became heated forums for discussing discrimination, police accountability, and community values. Some residents doubled down on defending the Brennans, but many more, began speaking openly about experiences they'd suppressed for years. Marcus continued his work, both as an architect and as an informal community advocate. His self-defense classes grew. His library project became a model for inclusive public spaces. People started greeting him on the street, not with suspicion, but with respect. When the trial finally began, Marcus attended every session. He watched as victim after victim testified, their voices steady and strong now that they weren't alone. He saw Patricia Holmes on the press bench, taking notes for her follow-up articles. He noticed the jury's expressions shifting from skepticism to outrage as the evidence mounted. Tyler sat at the defense table, his earlier swagger completely gone. His expensive lawyers argued that he'd been following bad influences, that he'd made mistakes, that he deserved a chance at rehabilitation, but the prosecution, led by an African-American district attorney named Jasmine Foster, systematically dismantled every excuse. She presented the parking lot video, witness testimony, financial records showing the Brennan family had paid settlements to several victims in exchange for non-disclosure agreements, even evidence that Tyler had bragged about his immunity on social media. On the 8th day of trial, the jury returned its verdict, guilty on all counts, including assault, ethnic intimidation, conspiracy, and violation of civil rights. Tyler received 8 years in prison. Brett and Connor got 4 years each. The courtroom erupted in mixed reactions, cheers from some, gasps from others. Richard Brennan stormed out, but Marcus noticed that several prominent town officials who'd once been in the Brennan camp remained seated, their faces unreadable. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed Marcus. "Mr. Chen, how do you feel about the verdict?" Marcus considered his words carefully. "I feel that justice was served. But this isn't just about punishing 3 people. It's about recognizing that hatred and intimidation have no place in any community. Millbrook has a chance now to build something better, a town where everyone, regardless of race or background, feels welcome and safe." "Will you stay in Millbrook?" another reporter asked. Marcus smiled. "Yes. This is my home now. And I have work to do." 6 months later, Marcus stood in the completed community library, watching families stream through the doors for the grand opening. The building was his finest work, a beautiful blend of modern design and traditional warmth, with large windows that flooded the space with natural light and gathering areas that invited people to linger. Linda stood beside him, admiring the architecture. "You did good, Marcus." "We did good," he corrected. "This building is just brick and glass. The community made this happen." Sophie had flown in from Seattle for the opening, and Marcus watched her chatting animatedly with some of the young people who'd attended his self-defense classes. She caught his eye and smiled, giving him a thumbs up. David approached with Carlos and Patricia. "You hear the news?" David asked. "Town council voted to create a community relations commission. They want you to serve on it." Marcus raised an eyebrow. "They want the troublemaker?" Patricia laughed. "The troublemaker who saved this town from itself?" "Yeah, they want you." "I'll think about it," Marcus said. As the celebration continued around him, Marcus stepped outside for a moment. The autumn air was crisp, the sky clear. He thought about that first day at the coffee shop, when Tyler and his crew had tried to intimidate him into leaving. He thought about all the people who'd suffered in silence before finding their voices. Change was hard. It required courage, patience, and an unwillingness to accept injustice. But it was possible. Millbrook was proof of that. Marcus's phone buzzed. A text from Sophie. "Proud of you, Dad. You built more than a library here." He smiled and typed back, "We all built it together." "That's how it works." As he walked back inside, ready to rejoin the celebration, Marcus felt something he hadn't experienced in a long time, the deep satisfaction of belonging. Not because he'd compromised or made himself smaller, but because he'd stood up, spoken truth, and helped a community find its better self. This was home. And it was worth fighting for.